What's going on? Welcome back to Off the Schneid. Today we're going to take a look at the Atlanta Falcons heading into the 2022 NFL Draft. Free agencies wrapping up for the most part. Trades and such are trickling in, things like that. But for the most part, we got teams shifting their focus towards the NFL Draft coming in a little under 2 weeks. Keep an eye on the channel for my mock draft coming out. Should be, I was saying the 22nd. It's probably going to be more like the 23rd on the Saturday of April. So we'll have about just under a week to judge it and rip it apart in the comments and things like that. And then, we'll see what happens on draft day and how accurate that is. So we'll take a look at, like I said, these Falcons. They're in an interesting spot, obviously, for the first time not having Matt Ryan on the roster in the last, 14 years, something like that. He moves on. They have a bunch of dead money with him moving on. And, we'll see what this team looks like. Obviously, a familiar face to Arthur Smith comes in Marcus Mariota, who was a former, I think, first or second overall. I can't even remember. It was a long time ago. But, he comes in on what's more or less a one-year deal. Obviously, they can hang on to him for the 2 years. They can cut him after this season for $2.5 million dead cap. And we'll see if they choose to do that. Like I said, it's an interesting spot with the quarterback class coming out this year. Do they want to take a quarterback now? Or, this is going to be a bad team regardless. So do you want to just let yourself be a bad team and have first, second, third, top 5 pick next year and go ahead and select one of those quarterbacks in next year's draft where, you're getting a guy that, you hope can step right in from day one. Whereas, this year's class, you might have to sit on them and let Mariota play for a year and take it from there. As far as the quarterbacks that have visited the Falcons, Matt Corral, Malik Willis, and Sam Howell have all visited this team. Obviously, you're going to have to select one of those guys at 8th overall. Who's that going to be? Is Malik Willis still even going to be there at 8th overall? And then do you feel comfortable taking one of those two guys there? Or do you trade back, acquire some picks, and then, take that quarterback there? But, then that will kind of take them out of the running for a quarterback next year. And they're still going to be a bad team regardless. So, if it's me, I don't select a quarterback this year. Obviously, you can see my team needs right there, and you do not see quarterback. You got the draft capital above that, but that's just the reason why I'm not taking a quarterback, because I'm going to just let myself be a bad team and select one next year where, I'm more comfortable with the class coming in than I am with this year's class. So, and again, regardless, you're going to be a bad team. You're going to have a top 10 pick next year. So, that's how I work it. But let's obviously, like I said, work through this whole thing. So like I said, start a quarterback. We got Marcus Mariota there. Felipe Franks is, the backup right now. I think, maybe a guy like AJ McCarron who knows this offense and has been with this team, maybe he comes back. I don't know. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Again, just let yourself be bad and, take it from there. We'll move to the running back position. Cordarrelle Patterson is, he's still not necessarily a running back, but he's a weapon. They can move on from him at any time. I'm not saying they do or will or should. I'm just saying that they can, financially, they can move on from him at any time. He had a career season as far as touches is concerned, and he did kind of start to whittle a little bit towards the end of the season. He came on strong at the start, got all these touches. I think, teams were kind of surprised with how they were using him and things like that, and then they caught on. So the proof is in the pudding on that one. It kind of is what it is, but he's still a quality weapon, and he's still a great return guy. He can catch the ball, run the ball. He can do a lot of good things for this offense. So I'm not saying move on from him whatsoever. I'm just saying they're going to need a running back that's going to be their guy. They're 100% running back of the future. Mike Davis, he did some good things as well. He caught a lot of balls, but he's not that guy. So, and then Damian Williams is a quality backup. Quadri Olison's big body guy who's never really gotten an opportunity. If I'm the Falcons, I bring in a guy that is going to be my bell cow future running back, and then still have my Cordarrelle Patterson as a gadget guy weapon that can do a lot of different things for my team. We'll move to tight end. Obviously, Kyle Pitts is the guy. Had a fantastic rookie season, over 1,000 yards, and he'll probably do the same this year. Marcus Mariota does have success throwing to tight ends throughout his history as a starter. So, we should see an uptick in targets, catches, probably yards, and definitely touchdowns for Kyle Pitts. One of the premier tight ends in the game right now, an absolute mismatch nightmare. He was fantastic coming out of the college last year. I really liked him. I wanted him to be a Bengal, but obviously the Falcons had to pick one selection before the Bengals at 4th. The Bengals were 5th, took Jamar Chase. It worked out for everybody. But there you go. He's fantastic. Anthony Ferkser comes in, knows the offense. Arthur Smith, obviously former Titan offensive coordinator. So he comes in to be the backup, and that's just fine. That'll be a good help to this offense with the lack of talent at wide receiver, which we'll get to in a second. We'll move to the offensive line. This is a very good offensive line. Very, very, very good offensive line. Very quality. The only problem I have is that left guard where Jalen Mayfield is penciled in, and he did play last year, but he was kind of sporadic. He was a rookie, 3rd round rookie. So the expectation wasn't there for him to come in and be some dominant offensive lineman right off the hop. But, you're hoping he can take that step this year and be that left guard that you need him to be. And potentially your future left tackle, if Jake Matthews, they move on from him, or if he starts to develop some injuries. He's getting a little older. So, you're hoping that he can maybe be that left tackle of the future, or you can draft a guy, later down the road to take over, and then Mayfield's still your left guard. Matt Hennessy is very good. Drew Dahlman, if Jalen Mayfield's not that guy, maybe Drew Dahlman can move over to left guard, and he can be your guy there. He didn't really get much action last year. And then Jermaine Ifedi is a solid backup, solid vet that you can rely on in a pinch. But they're really obviously hoping that this offensive line stays healthy, because this is the strength of this team realistically. And if they add that big body power back, a guy like, say, Brian Robinson or something like that, and they hand him the ball 200 times with the good things that Cordarrelle Patterson can do out of the backfield as well, then you got a quality running game right there. And that's how you're going to keep yourself in ball games as long as you possibly can. Like I said, this is going to be a bad team, and just stay in the game as long as you can and see what happens, and get those young guys those reps. And hopefully they have some young guys in skilled positions, that can learn quickly and, get ready for next season type of a thing. So let's move to the skill position players at wide receiver. This is a bad unit, to be honest. There's a ton of depth guys and guys that can do some good things. It's good. It'll be good to see, and hopefully Auden Tate does get a shot, to be a starting wide receiver in the NFL. Like I said, I'm a Bengals fan, and he did some good things, when he got opportunities. It's just the opportunities were few and far between. So hopefully he gets a shot here to show what he can do. And if he is a guy, then great. That'd be a great pickup for the Falcons. All the tools are there for him to be successful. Big body guy, go up and get it, jump ball guy. So we'll see what he can do if he's actually given that shot this year, which I do expect him to get. Damiere Byrd comes in, he's a quality slot guy, to be honest, but they got Olamide Zaccheaus there as well, who's only 5'8", who has progressed every year in his NFL career. So maybe he takes a step, and can do what Gage did last year and be a similar type of a player. But I don't expect them to throw the ball that crazy amount that he's going to have 700 yards, but I think 500 yards and call it 3 touchdowns for Zaccheaus. I think that's a quality season for him, as long as Auden Tate pushes around the 800 yard mark and they bring in a rookie that ends up starting on the other side. I don't think that Damiere Byrd is starting material. I don't think that Frank Darby is starting material. Kadero Hodge is not starting material. Chad Hansen's not, they need a starter. So I don't know if they take it at 8th overall. Maybe they do. To be honest, I would like them taking a wide receiver at 8th overall over a quarterback every single day. So that's maybe what I do there at 8th overall. And then, address some other positions at 43. Take a look at the defense. Obviously, my biggest needs are on the defensive side of the ball, but wide receiver, running back, those are positions that I think they need to address early and often, to be honest. And I set it up I basically set up this team. Your offensive line is there. Your tight end is 100% there. If you get yourself a quality running back and a couple quality wide receivers in this year's draft, you're a bad team anyways. You turn around, get your quarterback of the future next year, and then you're all of a sudden, going to hopefully be a contending team as long as they do some good things on the defensive side there. So let's move to the defensive side of the ball. Dean Pease is the defensive, coordinator here. He's an older, he's been around a long time. He took a couple of years off, and he's been with a few different franchises. I'm sure he's a very quality football mind, but if it's me, I'm probably moving on from Dean Pease and bringing in another defensive coordinator, after this season. We'll see what happens. This team only had 18 sacks last year. That's barely won a game. You know what I mean? That's unacceptable. That is absolutely unacceptable in today's NFL. They have to bring in some guys to get after the quarterback, and maybe that's what they do at 8th overall. I'm 100%. Again, I'll say it again. If it's me and I'm running this team, there's a 0% chance I'm drafting a quarterback at 8th overall. I'm sorry, I'm just not. I'm going to commit to being a bad team. And, the fan base might not like it, but, they'll like it a whole lot more if you take that extra year and you get, a top 3 pick and you get, say, CJ Stroud or Bryce Young or one of these guys that, you're going to be very comfortable handing the keys to this offense to. But either way, I digress, and I'll go back to the defense, and I'm probably letting Dean Pease, go after this year, bringing in a younger guy, and then maybe I keep him on, as a consultant type of a guy, because like I said, he's seen everything. He's been around a long time, and I'm sure he has a fantastic football mind, but I just feel like, today's NFL has kind of passed him by a little bit, if I'm being honest. But regardless, let's take a look at this team. Starting the defensive line, Grady Jarrett, it's unfortunate that he's had such a long, fantastic career, and he's still a super underrated player. I guess he's been to a Super Bowl with this team, but it's sad to see Grady Jarrett just kind of rot away on this team. If I'm being honest, it's been a long stretch for him since that Super Bowl run. But he's a quality leader, probably the number one captain on this team, and I like him a lot. Super underrated. Marlon Davidson needs to take that step. He needs to take a step this year and be the guy on that defensive line. Taequan Graham was a guy they drafted in the 5th round last year. I didn't particularly love that pick, and I think they need to address it this year. Obviously, it's my number 2 draft need. So, Grady Jarrett's still fantastic. He's just getting a little bit older, and Marlon Davidson hasn't taken that step yet. And Taequan Graham, I'm not sure about. So you have to address it this year. They have a ton of good draft capital there. What is that? 7 picks inside the 150 roughly. So they should be able to address this defense. And like I said, just get this team to a position where you're potentially just a quarterback away from being a contending type of a team, especially considering the Bucs are probably going to take a step back after this season once Tom Brady's gone, and this division's going to be wide open, and there's no reason why the Falcons can't be that team once Tom Brady moves on. But we'll continue with this defense. We'll move to the edge rushers. Lorenzo Carter comes in from the Giants. I've always liked Lorenzo Carter. He had a career season last year. He had 5 sacks. He comes into this team and should do pretty much exactly the same things he did with the Giants. I do like Ogundeji. I really liked him in the 5th round. I thought that was a little bit of a steal. I think he could have went earlier, but I do like him as long as he takes a step this year and becomes a guy. At the very least, you need him to be a rotational, 4 to 6 sacks I would be happy with. If you brought in a rookie with that number 1 pick or 43, maybe, depends on who's there, but you're going to have to add at least 1 or 2 edge rushers in this year's draft in order to force these guys to compete. I think Lorenzo Carter will be one of those starters. Ogundeji, we're not sure about. If I draft a rookie, I'm giving that rookie, every chance in the world to crack my opening day roster as my starting outside linebacker edge rusher in this defense. Linebackers are in a great spot. Olakun moves on. If it's me, again, I would have just ran with Michael Walker. I've always liked Michael Walker. He's never gotten a shot. I liked him in his draft year, 4th round pick. I thought that was a steal. I would have liked to have seen them give him an opportunity, but obviously, Rashawn Evans is a former Titan. A few guys have come to this team that are former Titans. Deion Jones is fantastic. I think that's the biggest reason why they let Olakun walk, because he can do a lot of the similar things, and he's a fantastic linebacker, kind of underrated a little bit. But, we'll see how it shakes out, and maybe Michael Walker does end up starting, but I think it's probably going to be Rashaan Evans, and then Michael Walker is your, backup. He plays on special teams, that kind of a thing. Either way, I think they're okay at linebacker. I probably don't address it in this year's draft. I just play these guys that I have, and like I said, you're going to be a bad team anyways, so let everybody play. We'll move back to the corners. AJ Terrell, former first-round pick. He's very good. He had a good season last year. Casey Hayward comes in, who can still definitely get the job done. Isaiah Oliver comes back on a one-year deal. You're hoping he can get back healthy. He's a former second-round pick for this team. Obviously, the contract ended, signed him to a one-year deal, kind of a, prove-it deal. But he can get the job done if he's healthy, I think. So we'll see how that works out. I do think that they have some good quality depth pieces here that, are kind of underrated. I do like Kendall Sheffield. I think he can, if he continues to improve. Darren Hall, you're hoping can improve. He was a 4th-round pick last year. But the guy I want to touch on is Avery Williams. He's a bit of a lightning in a bottle. You really want him to be your starting nickel corner, and then he's your return specialist. Obviously, you're probably still going to have Cordarrelle Patterson returning kicks, but Avery Williams was their primary punt returner last year. You just hope that he can play a little more on defense for this team. Obviously, he's going to play on special teams still, and on kick coverages and everything like that, but he's also going to return. Hopefully, he plays a little more on defense. I'd like to see him take a step forward and be a bit of a difference maker on this defense. I think he's the future at nickel corner for this team. So I'll leave that there. We'll move to safeties. They're in an okay spot, I suppose. Another guy that I really liked in the 4th round that they drafted is Jalen Hawkins. I'd love to see him get an opportunity to start for this team. We'll see if that does shake out. There is a spot open. Eric Harris should probably start for this team. Richie Grant should probably start for this team. Dean Marlowe comes over from the Detroit Lions. He had a good year last year. He's a bit of a late bloomer. I just more think he's more of a depth guy and a special teams player, things like that. Tez Tabor's still there, but Jalen Hawkins is the guy here on the back end that I would like to see get an opportunity, and we'll see if that comes to fruition this year. But there you go. Like I said, if I'm this franchise, I probably find myself another defensive coordinator. Potentially, no, you can't do it now. I was going to say potentially move to a 4-3. I just like 4-3 defenses better. Obviously, there's some other things and different packages you can do, but I'm not a big fan of a 3-4 type of a outside linebacker, edge rusher defense. I'm just not. And I don't think you could actually do that with this roster. You might as well stick it out. But I would bring in a guy that can run that sort of a defense for me. And like I said, I just think Dean Pease has had the NFL pass him by a little bit as far as the X's and O's today, of running an actual defense in today's NFL. And I think the proof is in the pudding last year. This wasn't a horrible defense, and still not a horrible defense that you can only get 18 sacks, 1 sack a game. You got to do better than that. It just is what it is. But there you go. There's your breakdown for the Atlanta Falcons. I'll leave it there. I think we touched on everything. I don't draft a quarterback, especially early. If you want to take one late that, is going to be your future backup quarterback, I'm okay with that. And, maybe he can start in a pinch, a guy like maybe Jack Cohn or EJ Perry, something like that. One of those guys, Bailey Zappi, maybe one of those types of guys that, is going to be your backup quarterback, but you can start him in a pinch as a rookie if Mariota should falter. So let's leave it there. Like I said, there's your breakdown for the Atlanta Falcons. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like I said, keep an eye out for my mock draft, but there's your breakdown for the 2022 Atlanta Falcons.